Frank Ocean is now receiving hate from all corners of the internet because of his last show at Coachella. It wasn't even offensive, just simply horrible. So horrible, in fact, that he dropped headline status, now to be replaced by Blink-182. To get the full story, it's important to first understand that Frank was initially set to headline at Coachella 2020 after already performing there prior in 2012, but the festival was cancelled due to the ongoing pandemic, so a year after they returned in 2022, Frank was announced as the headliner. There was tons of hype surrounding his performances for a variety of reasons, with him breaking his hiatus being the primary. Frank hasn't dropped a full-length project since Blonde in 2016, and not even a song since 2020, with his release of Cayendo Side A Acoustic being his last. But none of that happened, and what did, no one was expecting. Fans arrived at 8 a.m. to see Frank's 10 p.m. performance and the setup. See, initially there was an ice rink and 120 professionally trained skater backup dancers ready to go, but that all had to be scrapped after the singer suffered an injury to his leg on festival grounds in the week leading up to the weekend one of Coachella, resulting in 2 fractures and a sprain in his left leg, which, when he was originally told this information, attempted to cancel the already set up ice rink performance and drop 75% of the backup dancers, only keeping around 30. Those figure skaters got cut. Not because there was an ice issue. Not because there was something wrong, said Dan Powers. There was no malfunction. He just straight up was like, fuck this, I'm not doing this anymore. And these 120 people had bust out here. He was like, you guys aren't doing shit now. So it was just like a wild flip. Which, according to user Festival Owl on Twitter, became a nightmare of logistical improvisation. Although the skaters were sadly cut just hours from opening, the rink wasn't. Well, it was cut at a Frank show, but after supposedly spending millions on the rink, they're still trying to find another use for it, and even though we don't know what Coachella will land on doing with it, we do know that without it, Frank's performance was slowly falling apart. Before the show even started, it was announced that there wouldn't be any merch, and the YouTube livestream of his performance was abruptly cancelled. Scheduled to begin at 10:05 p.m., the set was delayed by nearly an hour as the crew nervously paced on stage, moving ladders back and forth in front of what looked like rows of TV screens. At first, it seemed like a reference to his endless visual album in which Ocean spends 45 minutes in a workshop building a staircase, but as the minutes ticked down, it became clear that this wasn't part of the plan. After coming out an hour late to his own performance, supposedly due to the staff melting the rink, Frank not only performed parts without a mic and practically backstage where you could only get a solid view of him from the screen above the set, but also objectively spent way too much time letting the DJ free reign.
Everyone is mad at Frank Ocean. We're leaving Coachella right now, and this is why. Alright, I'm going to start off by saying Frank was over an hour late, and people got there as early as 8 a.m. today. Secondly, he only performed for about 30 minutes max. Only did 3 of his popular songs. And the biggest thing is he never came out. He was behind the screen the whole entire time. By half the show, it was half empty already. People were leaving the entire time. I'm not saying like it was bad. I mean, that's up to you guys, but people feel very scammed today.
Hi, I was at Coachella and I did wait for Frank's set. So as somebody that was there, but also somebody that is like a massive Frank fan, I have thoughts. So if he was here at main stage, I was probably like right next to where ADA viewing is. So I was pretty close to the front of the stage. And by pretty close, this is what I mean. But anybody who's gone to Coachella knows that main stage gets packed. It goes all the way past the polo sign. So like, yeah, we were pretty close. If I can describe Frank's performance in one word, it would be off. Like something was just off. Also, I'm lisping right now because of my Invisalign, so I'm going to take it out. But basically, we left Fisher and Chris Lake at like 9:20, and Frank was supposed to come on at 10:05. We figured he'd be like a little late, but we wanted to get a good spot, so we left. And there were people who had been camped out there since the gates opened, like right in the front, like right there, literally spent their whole day in the sun. And Sunday was the hottest day. So like these people were dedicated and like really put themselves through it to see him. He came on an hour late. People were passing out around us. People were waving their flashlights to get medics. Like it was manic, and there's no way that Frank and his team didn't know that. Like, before anybody's like, The Weeknd was late last year. I was there last year. He was only late by 40 minutes. That's still a lot, but granted, he was slated like 2 weeks before after EA dropped out. So, like, it made sense, and The Weeknd killed it. Spoiler alert, Frank did not kill it by any means. It was not a great performance. And here's the thing. By now, we've all heard that the ice rink, like, a debacle happened and that everything was changed last minute. But I still think, like, Frank could have gone out there with a spotlight on him, camera on him, and just sang without dancers, without, like, a whole, like, concept or anything, because the anticipation was there. The fan base was there. Like, we all just, like, wanted to hear his music. And what we got was just, like, it was giving cult, weird. I don't even know how to describe it. Like, the, like, 5 minutes of people, the ice skaters, just marching in a circle before he even came on. He sang his first 2 songs, like, backstage before he even appeared. And then the fact he didn't even, like, sing to Chanel, like, was just there vibing. Like, I'm sorry, I could have streamed Frank Ocean and danced in a field. Like, it just wasn't the vibe. And, like, don't even get me started on the weird techno thing. I love that he was putting a spotlight on a smaller DJ, but it just went on a little too long to be comfortable, and it just, you know, like, it just was wrong. And again, like, I was close to the front, and people from the very front were leaving, and as they were passing us, they were saying, like, it's not worth it. Like, this isn't worth it. And they had been the ones camped out there all day. And again, like, at first I was, like, really kind of, like, into it because it felt very, like, intimate, like a crowd of 200,000 people silent listening to Frank. Oh God, let me know if I should do a part 2.
As mentioned in Lauren Lapid's 3-part series on his set, not only was his performance off, but it was also overly sexual at parts and very slow paced, with 2 to 3 minute long breaks between his songs and a 10-minute intro. As she says best, from the hour performance, the fans maybe got 30 minutes of what they paid for. And she claims that, according to one of the ice skaters she knows personally, Frank wasn't even really injured, and that's just the excuse given. Not to mention that, although a traditional performance is around 2 hours, Frank's was cut short due to curfew laws in Indio, where Coachella is located. So after around an hour, he abruptly left.
Guys, I'm being told it's curfew, so that's the end of the show. Thank you so much.
We want Frank! We want Frank! We want Frank!
As the "one more song" chant died down in the crowd, the online hate spiked. Since all of this, Frank dropped out of Coachella and was quickly replaced by Blink-182. Not only are the festival goers who spent thousands between travel, food, and tickets disappointed, but so are his other fans. People wasted days of their lives and weeks or months of their financials to see him, and they got a last-minute, half-ass obstructed show, all cut short by curfew.
Especially for something on the scale of Coachella. You're headlining Coachella, one of the biggest music festivals in the country. You know you're hotly anticipated. If you're not up to it, I mean, don't be a live touring musician then.